Congratulations. Truthfully, congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I think you'll do pretty well for the city, and you know, my team and your team together, you know, we can, I think, really enhance what we do here in the city. And
I completely agree.
I'm proud to say that you ran a terrific race. I'd like to thank my own people who also ran a terrific race, and you know, to be within 90 of Don Humason is pretty good. You're a formidable opponent, and I wish you all the best in your mayoral candidacy.
Thank you, Captain. I appreciate that. I said the same thing on election night. I think we really owe a debt of thanks to our families, first of all.
Sure.
Our volunteers, obviously, who worked so hard for both of us throughout this long campaign process and did a great job. I also said, as a lot of these folks heard, I thought it was one of the best races that Westfield's seen in a long time, as is evidenced by the outcome, how close it was. And especially for a candidate who runs his first race, you did a great job.
Thank you.
I'm not really happy about that, but I mean, you got really close.
I should say something about the mix-up on the recount, probably.
Sure.
The Tuesday night was an interesting night for me, as you probably have imagined. And I was told right off the bat that any time that there's an election within 1 percentage point, that there was an automatic recount. Well, apparently that's true in 20 states by law, Connecticut being one of them, but it's not true in Massachusetts. So clearly I didn't know that at the time that we were considering going forward with the recount. But in the best interest of the city, I've decided not to do that for very specific reasons. I don't think that Don's administration should start that way, and I don't think that the city should bear the extra cost of having to go through that process. So once again, I'm grateful for the citizens of Westfield for what they have shown in terms of their enthusiasm and support. There's 10,000 votes out there, which represents a little bit around 40% of the voting population, and that's really, really pretty good for the city of Westfield in a non-presidential campaign environment. So it was a terrific race, and I appreciate everything that everybody's done, including the press corps, and my best to, obviously, Jennifer and Kate. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Mike.
It's my pleasure.
Do you have any questions?
What's your future, Mr. McCabe?
I don't know. You know, there's lots of things out there. There's lots of opportunities out there for me. I'm pretty sure that my tenure at the police department is running short, and we're going to be looking at all kinds of different things.
Will you have a role with the Humason administration?
I'm not sure.
It's very possible.
I'm not sure.
What might that role be?
I could use a driver.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing that, but I'm not really sure right now. There are both public and private opportunities that are open to me, and I'll just kind of take it as it will. It's been an interesting year for me and my family, so it's time to take a little bit of a breather and step back and reassess where we are and take a look at things.
What's next step for you, Don?
Now we're ready to start meeting with folks and getting ready. I'm going to wait, or I'm not going to wait until the swearing-in day. Obviously, I have a lot to do between now and then. Peter Cole's just got on the list. I've got to start to make a list of people to meet with, and I'm going to try to see that come to fruition before the holidays, so that we're ready to start with a lot of energy and a fresh start.
How are you feeling about leaving the State Senate?
Sad, obviously. The State House is a place I've worked since 1991, so I've been there for a long time. As I was walking through the halls yesterday, I thought how much I would miss the building, how much I would miss the institution, but especially the people that I've worked with. They're great. The good news is the legislators in the House and Senate I can still continue to work with in different ways. We're still friends. We can still keep in touch, but it'll be sad.
How is the transition going to go, do you think, in terms of from legislator to mayor?
Oh,
well,
I anticipate it will be a pretty smooth transition based on style. I think just like I'm going to bring the same style I put in this job to the mayor's job, where it is asking questions, listening to people, taking advice, and hopefully making a good decision. It's worked for me pretty well there. Hopefully it'll work for me here in the city of Westfield.
Don, I know before this all started, you kind of mentioned, you wanted to be closer to Westfield, and now
Yeah.
you really have that opportunity. Can you just, speak to that now being the mayor of this city?
Yeah, my commute right now from my house to the State House is 105 miles. From my house to City Hall is 5 miles. And I've always joked that I'd rather spend 3 hours in meetings here in Westfield than 3 hours stuck in my truck on the turnpike. It's extremely inefficient. It's a terrible use of time. I think of all the people that commute back and forth from Western Mass to the city and to Boston, and how hard that is. But now I'll have the chance to put all that time and energy here to the city instead of wasting it on the road.
Any number, like top priorities as far as changes, things you want to bring to the city?
Well, we've talked about it all along the campaign trail. And I think Mike and I have very similar messages because we listen to the constituents and the people of the city. They really want us to work on infrastructure. They want us to work on taxes. They want us to work on things that are good for the city. And so I think it shouldn't come as any surprise that that's what we focus on.
Have you thought about who's going to be part of your team?
Honestly, not yet. Not yet. I've got a lot of work to do before then. And I will tell you this. I think Mayor Sullivan and now Acting Mayor Figge have both been really very helpful. They've offered a lot of assistance, and I'm going to have a lot of questions for them.
What about timing for a special election to fill your seat in the resignation?
Sure.
Walk
So
us
then-
through that process.
The next step is that sort of the legislature recesses for the holidays on November 20th, so the Senate is in session probably 2 or 3 more times between now and then. At that point, I will sit down, actually maybe before then, I'll sit down with Senate President Karen Spilka, with Minority Leader Bruce Tarr, and try to work out a date to resign so that we can plan the date of the special election. Usually takes 3 months or so from the date of a vacancy to the date of the special. So there will be a special election in this district in the spring next year. I don't have the exact time yet. That will be up to the Senate President.
They try and time them for other election days to that March presidential primary?
Sometimes they do. We have another Senator, Vinny DiMacedo, who's also leaving. He's from the Plymouth area. So we're looking at trying to find maybe a date when his election and my election can happen at the same time. I don't know if that benefits anybody out here in Western Mass, but it certainly helps with the Senate.
So you'll be doing transition work into the mayor's office and
Sort
doing
of
Senate work?
coterminously. Yeah.
And how's that going to work?
As I said, I spent a lot of time on the Pike, so there's a lot of time to think about things. It's not, I don't anticipate a problem.
Just a quick question for Mike, I guess. Did you expect this race to be this close, especially being, your first political race?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured going in I was probably a 70-30, 60-40 underdog. So to be within underneath 1% of victory is a super credit to the team that we built in 5 months. So I'm super happy with.
And to the candidates.
Well, thank you. So I'm super happy about how that turned out. I'm not happy about obviously how the final tally turned out, but I'm super happy about that. And I think you'll probably be hearing from me again later on.
Could you just clarify the decision not to get a recount again? You said you now know it's not a.
So there were a couple of
automatic
pieces.
thing.
There were a couple of pieces really that were impacting my decision in the first place for a recount. In the beginning, I was told that there was an automatic 1%. So literally 5 minutes after I had found out what the election results were, people were asking me questions. Retrospect, I probably should have stepped away from those questions, but you really can't. You're in the moment. There were other things that occurred during the election process that both Don and I were aware of. There was a number of polling machines that actually went down because they weren't properly plugged in. I don't blame anybody at the election commission. They weren't properly plugged in because when they turned them on, they started up. Well, what they didn't realize was they started up on battery power, not on electrical power. So as those machines' batteries died, then there started to be a logjam of ballots. Not a logjam. There started to be a number of ballots that were collected and then had to be inputted at the end of the ballot. There was also stories of a couple of machines that were jamming up. But the really interesting piece for me was I was told that the 440 absentee ballots had not yet been counted. So even though we had election results that were official, we still didn't have 440 ballots that hadn't been counted as far as my team understood. Once it got all sorted out, and I want to thank Karen Fannin. She did a yeoman's work under considerable circumstances for her to get at least a solid number back to both myself and to Don within 2 days. They have 10 days to do that. So my hat's off to Karen and her team for getting that done. I think the final tally was a differential of 90 votes. So once all those questions had been answered, then it was a really pretty simple question for me. I don't like spending money. I just simply don't like to spend the taxpayers' money. It's not something that I'm a fan of. So when it came down to trying to figure out how to scientifically flip what the math was on flipping 90 votes, whether or not there were going to be 45 votes in there that would have gone my way on a recount, and they would have all had to gone my way on a recount. It wouldn't have been fair to the taxpayer and citizens of Westfield, and it certainly wouldn't have been fair to Don.
But 2 days ago, you were not so sure. You said it would be prudent to double check.
And I did the work to double check.
I see.
You follow me? I got
Thought
all
more about
of
that.
my questions answered within 2 days. And, I don't want Don to be sitting around waiting and have this kind of weird, awkward period. So it's not fair to his team, his campaign. There were 5,000 people on his side and 5,000 people on my side. So you got to be respectful of all the process. So it's just better for the city.
When you say we might be hearing from you, would that be another run for?
I'm not sure what that looks like just yet. I really believe that there's aspects of my ability that can benefit the city in some way, and maybe it manifests itself that way, maybe it manifests itself in the private sector, but certainly, you'll hear soon, or you'll hear about me soon in some other capacity, I think.
And this is often, this is such a gentleman's race. I know those words have been thrown around, but when you guys look at each other, and how do you feel? I mean, again, it's been very impressive how you two have worked so closely under such a hard situation. How has that been?
I especially like that. Even throughout the process, while we were running against each other, and then even on election night, we were talking to one another, communicating directly, not through intermediaries, not through aides or staff or volunteers, but we were actually talking to one another. I think that's two Westfield guys, and that's how we get it done. And I think it worked.
One of the first things that we did when we formed the team was we just said that this is the way it is. So as a brand for our team, and I'm sure as a brand for Don's team, our brand was going to be that we were going to run a positive campaign.
That's right.
And that's just the way it was. There's no reason to throw mud at people, and we weren't going to do it. And if there was going to be a rumor that it had happened, it would have been dealt with immediately. Fortunately for my team, it did not happen, and I owe them, a tremendous debt of gratitude for the way they handled themselves. There were situations in any race that are adversarial, but you have to understand that you're talking about two decent human beings trying to do the right thing for their city, and once you put it in that perspective, everything else really kind of just flows from that. So, thank you for asking the question. Good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all again. Thank you.